You score a touchdown every time you've been in the red zone this year. Every time, 11 for 11. And that's what you're complaining about?
Yeah. Let's go to Mike Gill. He joins us right now here on Birds 365. You can follow him at Mike Gill Show. Listen to him at 97.3 ESPN down the shore, 97.5 The Fanatic up in Philly on the weekends. Mike, what's going on, brother? How you doing on this Wednesday morning? Plenty to talk about once again, Mike.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch going on. It was a very frustrating game to kind of watch, but most likely in the long run, probably good for this team. They probably needed something like this. You can't keep having this. They find a way to win. They find a way to win. They're finding ways to win that teams were kind of helping you find, drop passes, that kind of stuff. This was a kind of a wake-up call, possibly game for them that they probably needed somewhere along the line. Better now early than somewhere late in the year.
And then it helps to get right back on the field Thursday night, Mike, against the New York Football Giants. It couldn't have worked out better from the opponent's standpoint. I mean, the Giants are coming off a loss to the New Orleans Saints, who were in the conversation for being the worst team in football.
Yeah.
Over the first 4 weeks.
I'll tell you what, though, I think this game's a little tricky in that the Giants do have a very sneaky, good defense. They're very good up front. They can get to the quarterback. So if you put together a lousy game plan for them, just like the Chargers, they can snag you. I mean, I don't think that they're obviously one of the worst teams in the league, but they are very good up front. They've got good safety play. Their offense is just atrocious. But in terms of trying to get your offense right, this could be a sneaky, tough week for you on a short week trying to figure them out.
From my perspective, I think that's been the most disappointing part of the Giants is the defense hasn't been that good.
Yeah, I agree.
And consistently bad, like all across. They're 26th. I'm just looking at it. 26th in total defense. Again, small sample size still, but we can only look at what we look at. 26th in total defense, 26th against the run, 25th against the pass, 22nd points per game. Third down defense is 24th. Fourth down defense is 31st. The only thing they're above average is red zone defense in the condensed area, where they're 11th. And to your point, it looks good up front. But other than Brian Burns, nobody's getting home.
No, but, you're banged up front. You've got some problems up front, and they have talent up front that you're waiting for. This could be one of those weeks where it looks like Dickerson obviously is not going to play. So how does that spot affect this game?
Yeah, and Dexter Lawrence is there, and he has no sacks. So Sexy Dexy, as he likes to call himself.
Just like a short week. The one area of their defense, when you look at them, that you think has the most talent is their defensive line. Your offensive line, which you usually look at every time when you go into a game, and the other team's best asset is their pass rush, you feel like the Eagles' offensive line can neutralize what they do. You no longer feel that way. You give up really 4 sacks last week, but 6 in all, because your line is just not the same, where you just walk in and it's a fait accompli that we're going to dominate you up front. That has not been happening. And for the Giants to get themselves on a short week, their defensive line might say, hey, this could be a week where, normally you don't think that against the Eagles. That's why this is an interesting, where we are in the season is normally in the year that they went 2-5, they just turned it over to their offensive line, and that carried them the rest of the way. Right. They were able to hide their warts because of their offensive line. Now, their offensive line is part of the wart that is affecting this offense in totality.
Mike, what'd you make of the I agree, but by the way, with the Giants, what did you make of the offense in week 5 where we just lost, where, they come out, they throw the ball, and then they have this meeting this week with Jalen and AJ and Saquon. Maybe that's the fix-all. What do you make of the latest on the offense and the development of the offense this year?
Well, I mean, the numbers are just awful. Saquon Barkley, 6 carries for 30 yards. It's the fewest carries he's had with the Eagles. I mean, it feels like he's back on the Giants here. 45 rushing yards, fewest in the game. Forget Saquon Barkley. It's the fewest they had in a game since 2018, and it's the third week in a row they haven't rushed for 100 yards. You know, sometimes in the game, you have Barkley and Hurts have 8 total carries in the game. 8.
Yeah.
They would run one series and get 8 carries, sometimes those two guys. And that's where it's frustrating. It's 17-3 in the final quarter of the game. That game's over last year. The game's over because you couldn't get them off the field. They go 3 and out almost 50% of their possessions.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
It's pathetic. With this group of, I don't care if your offensive line is me, John, you, your dad, and somebody else. With this group of skill players, if you can't get a first down, come on. I don't get how this is so hard to just get a little bit of offensive rhythm here with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Those two guys there, you shouldn't have the problems we constantly talk about. And then you mix in what you have with Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley. And, oh, by the way, the Shipley kid's a nice little asset. A.J. Dillon has given you a little something. And you're supposed to have one of the best quarterbacks in football. And you can't get a first down 50% of the time. And, by the way, we're not talking about a first down. We're talking about 3 and out. 3 plays and out. And these aren't – you're not getting 8 yards. You're getting no yards. The fact that they couldn't even get into push position, and like you talking about an offense.
Yeah, the tush push, that's interesting. The tush push has gotten, hasn't been that big of a deal to pay there because they haven't even gotten in position.
And get into it. And are we talking about an offense with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Hurts as the only play that you trust is a play that you get 1 yard on? Like, what are we talking about? Like, I feel like I get it. This is what they do. Fine. But what you did last year was you did it successfully. You did it explosively. You got a play and you saw a 70-yard breaker, a 50-yard breaker. You saw the fruits of the labor of trying to, that's not happening right now. And they need to figure this out because now teams are looking at you. Denver comes into your building. It's one thing you go to Denver. Okay, maybe it's high altitude. You run out of gas. The defense is on the field. You lost on the road against a solid team. You lost at home with a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter. Not good. Not good.
Yeah, well, that's the biggest point of, I always, and Zander can stipulate this. He knows. I hate the run-pass ratio question. You know it too. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, right. And 99% of the time I'm right. I always say, tell me the score in the fourth quarter, and I'll tell you the run-pass ratio. Mm-hmm. Well, they were ahead for the vast majority of that game, as you mentioned, and not a large part, but for a significant amount of time, up by 2 touchdowns, and they're still throwing the ball. It was bizarre.
17-3. You're up 17-3 in the second half of that game, and you're throwing the ball all over the yard, going
bizarre.
It
looked like you're trying. Mike, to me, it looked like, and Nick has denied this, and obviously, they were trying to acquiesce somebody, whether it was the outside voices, the Drew Brees, the boring offense, the conservative, or inside with AJ and Devontae. They were trying to acquiesce somebody by the way they played. They were trying to prove something rather than winning the game. That's how it came across to me.
Sure. I agree. We actually... So our morning show, they were talking about this in the morning. They said if Twitter didn't exist, the Eagles would have won that game. Essentially,
probably.
Like if AJ Brown doesn't get the pop off on Twitter and put his thoughts out there, this is never addressed, and the Eagles probably don't listen to that noise, and they end up winning that game. But I agree wholeheartedly that they felt like they had to get those 2 receivers because they're obviously. Many people have talked about it, but then Diana Rossini's report in the morning, that gets out there.
Yeah, then it becomes real. Like I can say it. I can say it. A bunch of us can say it. And then Diana says it. And it's like, it's real.
Right, because once A.J. Brown, this happens all the time. Once you throw Devontae's name into it as well, now it feels like this is starting to spread a little bit. And the way that it's worded is they're frustrated. specifically with their red zone touches. So it's like, really?
And by the way, that's
every
awful.
time you're in the right, you score a touchdown every time you've been in the red zone this year. Every time, 11 for 11. And that's what you're complaining about?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I get it between the hashes if you're saying, hey, we got to do a bet. But I don't know. The thing is pointing to, and listen, you would think you would come out. You're up. You got a 17-3 lead. You would think you could close that game out at home if you are as good as you think you are. And I think that was a punch in the gut to say you're not as good as you think you are, because like Denver's, they come into your building and they say, we're not afraid of you. We don't think we can go toe-to-toe with you. And they did, and they not only went toe-to-toe, they beat you.
Yeah, the most crazy stat to me, and obviously offenses aren't going to hum at all cylinders all year, but that 3-and-out number is just insane. It's 47. Zach Berman put this up. It's 47.2%. All right. Number 2 is Tennessee and Cincinnati. The Eagles lead the NFL in 3-and-outs. And it's only been 5 games, but listen to this stat. No team has had a worse 3-and-out percentage since 2005. And in 2005, it was the 49ers who went 4-12 that year. Like, I don't get where do you guys think the problem lies on that part of it specifically? You're not going to score points every game. You might have some problems in the passing game here and there. 50% 3-and-outs?
Okay,
it's crazy.
You're up 17-3. No one's saying that you have to score points, but generally you could get first downs and run that clock down so that Denver doesn't have a chance to get back into the game. Give me a 7-play drive, kick it down the other end of the field, and make them flip the field. You can't even do that. The ineptitude to not be able to get one first down is alarming. Not to mention, in the second half of that game, we're talking about the offense exclusively pretty much, but you got Bo Nix in the game. The guy was nearly flawless in the fourth, 9 of 12 for 127 yards in the fourth quarter. And he was absolutely perfect on every ball over 20 yards, 4 for 4. They couldn't get a stop either. So the defense gets a little bit of, but I know they were on the field all day long, all that stuff. Yeah. But guess what? You're supposed to be this great defense that the team can lean on, even in a game that you're trying to run out.
Cortland Sutton, baby. Cortland Sutton.
Right. But you're trying to run that game out. We're not even saying, hey, why couldn't you score more points? We're just saying, why couldn't you get the clock rolling more and have a 17-3 lead? They couldn't do that because they couldn't get a stop either in that game. And look, that Denver offense, you mentioned Cortland Sutton, good player, Bo Nix, young, exciting player. That's not a good offense. I mean, that offense is not great. And you couldn't get a stop on that team.
They're running the ball at 5.7 a clip, Mike. They kind of remind me of the old of the 21 Eagles. Running the ball well. They got a young quarterback.
Well, I'll tell you, say running the ball well. They had
great offensive line and a great defensive line. They kind of beat us at our own game, man.
They do. Well, they have a good offensive line, but they had their first 100-yard rusher in like 5 years the other night. So it's the first time they kind of got their run game going. So, yeah, their offense, like I said, their offense is good, but it's not like this dynamic, high-flying offense that you shouldn't be able to get one stop on your home turf when you need it. I get it every week to ask the defense to constantly get that stop, but you would think in the fourth quarter when you need one stop, they just need one stop. That's it. Get off the field, and they couldn't get it done.
Well, I did want to talk about the defense, but I just want to wrap up one thing with the offense because, to the uniqueness of this team and Zander putting out the third down numbers, which are true. The 3-and-out numbers are egregious. What's crazy, then you take it further. So the 3-and-outs are unbelievable, but when they get that first down, they are the most efficient offensive team in football to the point of the red zone numbers. Like their efficiency numbers when they get a first down are insane. It's like, their offense, they're 30th in total offense. They're first in red zone offense. How do you explain that? Usually if you have a bad offense, you have a bad offense. When they get that first down, they're always scoring.
Yeah.
It's incredibly, like you said, Mike, get that 7-play drive. Well, it's either they get nothing or they get everything. It is I've never seen anything like it.
Right. And if you say you've never seen anything like it, I don't think that anybody can give you a legitimate reason why. It is perplexing as to what is going on with this offense. And I go back to a lot of it seemingly is you were able to call any play in the bag because of your offensive line, and now you really can't. And that doesn't mean it's all the time, because the line is still talented. Mailata and Lane are still very good. Steen has been okay. I think he's been a drop-off in the run game to Becton. And then obviously the two guys at center and left guard are not the same players that they were a year ago. But at times they can be those players, just not consistently enough. So I think that's where you get the inconsistencies, that sometimes those guys do play at a higher level. And look, the line has had a lot of changes and movements. Sometimes you have all five. Then Steen goes out and Pryor comes in. And then Dickerson goes out and here comes Brett Toth. And then Lane goes out. And then here comes, Pryor the first game. Then Fred Johnson came in for him. So the consistency of that line, you're getting a taste of what many of these teams go through. We talk about it all the time. If you don't have an offensive line, Minnesota's had Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook and, Adam Thielen. And you're like, why does this team stink? Well, they can't block. That's why. They have great skill players, but they can't block. And I think the Eagles are getting a little taste of what these teams go through when they just can't consistently block. Now, the Eagles, as inconsistent as they've been, are still better than most. But now you're getting a team that was a good offensive team, not a great offensive team. This should be a great offensive team with all the parts. They're a good offensive team, not great. Well, now they're a very average offensive team because their line is making them average.
Real quick, Mike, what'd you make of the meeting? Because what
was that?
The meeting, the meeting that was reported that Saquon, AJ, and Jalen had. I'm originally thinking about it, and me and John talked about it at length yesterday. I don't want to get too bogged down into it, but I don't think it was about the offense. I mean, you have a meeting with Saquon, AJ, and Jalen. No Nick, no Kevin, no offensive lineman, no Devontae Smith, no Dallas Scott. That wasn't about the offense. I mean, what'd you make of that meeting yesterday that was reported?
Well,
AJ, and Saquon.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts, him being asked about it yesterday and him kind of just saying, we're going to keep that in there. Saquon, similar thing. It seems that I would agree that this was more about, hey, guys, we have a chance here and we're letting it slip away, right? Mm-hmm. We're letting whatever differences we may have interfere with what is a chance to be a great team. And you hope that that's the way that the meeting went. But that's kind of the read I get here, is that we have a chance, and it's up to us guys right here to make sure that this doesn't slip away, because everybody else is seemingly doing their job. It's the problems that we're having that is splitting this team up, and it's not fair to the rest of the team. So let's get our act together. That's where you hope that this thing went. And seemingly the way they talked about it, instead of saying, hey, we just know we have a great offense and we just got to get on this, because the word get on the same page kept coming out last week. And it seems that get on the same page might be more off the field than, and listen, they need to get on the same page on the field too. I mean, although, in the first half of these games, they're throwing the ball and they're having success, right? I mean, the targets are there, the catches are there. This week, Devontae got targets, catches, yards. I mean, he can't complain with the game that he ended up with. But I would imagine that had to do more with, guys, we're letting our differences off the field start to infiltrate on into this locker room, and it's affecting everybody.
All right. Now, I don't know if people are ready for this conversation, but I'm going to throw it out there. As the world turns, the soap opera nature of the offense has, I think, let the defense skate through. I thought that game was developing exactly the way I thought it would at 17-3. Basically, a young quarterback was clueless. He didn't know what he was seeing. He wasn't comfortable. He wasn't playing well. And then you get to the fourth quarter, as you mentioned, Mike. And I think Sean Payton, to his credit, said, you know what? We're just gonna throw back shoulders, and we're just gonna do this, and we're gonna do that with Cortland Sutton. And he dominated the game, and very good player, but let's be honest, he's not Jamar Chase. But what he is a big physical guy. And that was probably the worst game, at least that I can remember, that Quinyon Mitchell has played in a long time. And Vic got these questions yesterday, and it's like, he's traveling a lot more than we thought he would. And he's traveling against Cortland Sutton, and it bit the Eagles. According to PFF, he was the worst graded defensive player in the game. When's the last time you heard that? Except for Byron Young, who played like 15 snaps, so I don't count that. And he also got hurt. Cortland Sutton went completely off in the fourth quarter. We asked, is there too much on the plate right now? Vic said, no, I don't think so. It's just a rare miscalculation from Vic Fangio.
You know, it's funny because Bo Nix, the first 3 quarters of the game, went 1 for 10, 20 yards passing on throws 20 or more, 10 or more yards down the field. So they had him figured out and completely shut down in the first 3 quarters of the game. He went 4 for 4 for 82 yards on throws of 10 or more in the fourth quarter. So again, does this go back to the defense is just being asked to do too much? They're on the field too much, or was there, as you said, they're asking Quinyon to do too much? I don't know that it's that. I mean, because obviously early in that game, they had Bo Nix in this offense. They had 3 points in half. So I would have leaned more on the fact that you're just asking the defense 2 weeks in a row now to do a whole heck of a lot before we start getting concerned that Quinyon Mitchell has too much on his plate, because he's kind of
the only reason I go that direction is because
fair question though.
In those first 3 quarters, they weren't throwing the back shoulder stuff. They were trying to run a typical offense. It seemed like Sean Payton said, all right, this ain't working, so I'm just going to go guy against guy, physical against bigger guy against smaller guy. And you just saw some of those 50-50 balls, and Cortland was turning them into, like AJ does when he's going well, they were 80-20 balls. And they were going Cortland's way. So the numbers were 7 targets, 5 completions, 77 yards. I believe 4 of those were in the fourth quarter, which is not typical of the numbers that Quinyon usually gives up. So, you know, what they do well is what they did well last year was a lot of quarters coverage, a lot of cover 3. This year it's been more cover 1, because they feel they have that corner that can do that. And it's been great until Sunday. I don't know. Is it, you know, is it just, hey, Sean Payton adjusted, Vic didn't? Rarely do I say maybe somebody got the better of Vic, but I think somebody got the better of Vic.
Yeah, well, you just said it. They were not doing what they were doing for 3 quarters. And then I think Sean Payton, who, listen, won a Super Bowl and sometimes can flip it on and be a very aggressive play caller. I think he's at that point in this game where he says, dude, we're on the road. What the hell? Let's just go for this thing. We have a shot. We have them on the ropes. Let's get aggressive here. And you saw a team really get aggressive late in that game. And they're just, you know, they were in their bag. He was calling everything, hitting everything kind of perfectly there. And the Eagles, you could tell they were on their heels. And we're like, whoa, we weren't expecting you guys to come at us like this after what you did. You kind of lulled. It was like the rope-a-dope, right? They lulled the Eagles defense to sleep for 3 rounds, 3 quarters. And then all of a sudden they're like, we're just going to pull it out and go right after you. So there could have been a little bit of a late adjustment from Vic Fangio. There's no question about that, you know, that it could have been, you could look at Vic and say, hey, for 1 week, the other guy got the better of you. Now, you say for 1 week, you know, Vic has been around the league. It's not like he wins a Super Bowl every single year. This guy's not infallible.
Yeah.
We always act. I know it's like Jeff Stoutland. We have Jeff Stoutland University, and that every lineman that goes in there is just the best offensive lineman. Doesn't matter where you drafted him, where you found him, what college he went to. You go to Stoutland, and he's going to be awesome. Well, that's not happening right now. He's the run game coordinator. This run game stinks right now. So, you know, these guys who have been a staple of your success are certainly now, you know, you have long resumes of film when you coach as long as these guys do. And some of these guys are just saying, look what this team constantly does. Look what they do so well. And a lot of teams can't stop it until finally someone cracks the code and says, I see what Philadelphia does well. I got something. And then when someone does something well to stop you, everybody else says, look what they did. Let's see if we can implement that. And then the chess game keeps flipping and flipping. The Eagles need to now move a piece because teams are saying, what you did last year, you are not doing on us this year.
How much of that do you think is on the offense, though, with the defense? I mean, you lead the league in 3 and outs. How hard is it going to be for your defense?
That's what I was saying about the Quignon thing. I mean, I hate to be like, well, your defense is on the field all day, but in your 3 and out you're not even getting a 5-play drive. You
Right.
are constantly off the field within, a minute and 20 seconds. You're flipping the ball right back over. And there was a part like they're getting, you look at, John, I know we always talk about sacks aren't the number. You're not even getting pressures. You're barely getting near the guy. You're letting him get into position to throw the ball back shoulder where he wants to, because he doesn't have to worry about getting it out of his hands so fast. He's saying, look, I can take my time, step in and throw the ball where I want to throw it to make let my receiver make a play. So you're not helping the secondary either. This is a dance here. You get the pressure to make the quarterback rush the throw so that I can make a play in the secondary. Well, if that's not happening, the quarterback gets a chance to throw the ball where he wants to so that the receiver can make the play. And then the defensive back is always at the deficiency at that point, because they don't want to get called for pass interference. And Quignon has been a little handsy. I mean, he's a grabber. He got called one in the end zone this week, right?
Yeah.
He's
and that was against Cortland, by the way. That was against Cortland Sutton.
So, and look, Quignon's been awesome, and we'll certainly look back at this and say, hey, was this just a 1-week thing? But I think teams are now going to say, is that a play that we could run against Philadelphia and Mitchell that we generally don't want to go his way? Maybe now there's a way we can.
Yeah, I think the officials are a big deal when it comes to Quignon, because he has gotten very handsy in Tampa Bay.
Man.
They were I compare it to home plate umpires, so baseball playoffs. Sometimes you got the large strike zone, sometimes you got a smaller one. Craig Maddox was the best ever at that. Keep pushing it. If they're giving you an inch outside, go 2 inches outside. Figure out where he's going to go and use that to your advantage. And Tampa Bay, he was grabbing the jersey, and they were letting it go.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was, had a phenomenal game. 5 pass breakups, all that. And they called it when he grabbed the jersey in the end zone. They called it. So it's almost like that home plate umpire. You got to have a feel for it and say, all right, I can get away with this today.
Well, I'll tell you this. It's hard to get a feel on these NFL refs. I mean, they are bad. It's tough to figure out what they are going to call, not call. Because if you are showing film and you show that Goddard play, you would say, "Hey, defensive back,
the Eagles,
this is a play that we don't want you to. We don't want you to emulate this."
The Eagles have a Saturday meeting, not this week because they're playing on Thursday, which bullshit, as I started the show with. But they have a Saturday meeting every week for a Sunday game, and they talk about the crew and what they do. They study that stuff. Yeah. So each crew has sort of a what they do, like a pitcher. They call a lot of illegal men downfields. They call a lot of pass interference. They study that stuff. So there is something to that. There's no question. I did want to. The pass rush is interesting to me because you had mentioned. I think that's the narrative that it stunk. I was just looking at because Vic doesn't think it stinks, but they haven't gotten the sacks yet. I think it's. PFF has them as number 5 best pass rushing team in football right now. Only Cleveland with Miles, Detroit with Aiden Hutchinson, Houston with Donnell Hunter and Will Anderson, Green Bay with Micah Parsons, and then the Eagles. And Jalen Carter, who clearly is not healthy, obviously, and dealing with the shoulder, and he hasn't had a sack yet this year. He's got the second most quarterback hits among NFL defensive tackles this season, behind only Jeffrey Simmons. I don't think the pass rush is has been as bad as people think it is. They're just not getting the sacks yet. But I do think the pressures are there, and they're affecting quarterbacks.
They might be there early in the game. I would agree. Late in that game, when Denver needed to get back in the game,
and that might speak to the 3 and outs more.
Exactly. But the beginning of that game, your defense is dominating the game. Yeah, you're getting pressure. You're causing What I say Knicks was in the first 3 quarters, 1 for 12. I mean, so yes, your defense was getting pressures and getting, hurries. But as that game went on and you needed a stop, that's when that and that could go back to the other point is, were you on the field too much? 3 and outs. You're constantly asking your defense to make a stop. You can't make a stop all day, every day against good quality teams. Look, Denver's a good quality team. They made the playoffs last year. Some people look at Denver because they just don't have, like, they're one of those teams that just doesn't have a high profile, well-known star on their team that you think of. But, you mentioned Sutton. He's a really good wide receiver. Nix is in his second year, so it's hard to kind of figure out what kind of player he is at this point. Their offensive line's really good. So when you have a team that their offensive line is really good and they don't have a star running back or a star receiver, they're a hard team to kind of figure out of where they are. But this team won 10 games last year. I actually think right now they might win that division. I mean, you got the Chargers with some injury issues on their offensive line. The Chiefs just don't seem to be right. This Denver team with a win like that could be the win that propels them to overtake everybody in this West. I think right now them and the Chargers are tied, but I think the Denver Broncos might win that division.
Yeah, that's going to be a dogfight. I picked the Chargers, but that was before
I think at the beginning of the year, we all thought the Chargers were the team that could take the Chiefs over.
And they looked good the first couple games, the Chargers. They looked like they were going to do
it. The Chargers have the problems the Eagles have. Their 2 tackles are out, and they can't block. They cannot get anything going offensively.
And they have 2 very good tackles.
Yeah, their 2 tackles are out, and they can't block.
They got
the drop off.
Slater and Joe Alt. Those are their 2 tackles.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, and the drop off is precipitous, and they're having problems moving. You lose to the Giants, you got problems. And look, if the Eagles back themselves into losing to the Giants, wait till you hear the narrative on Friday.
Oh, yeah, that would be. The Giants are similar, though.
2 claps at a Ric Flair on Friday.
Yeah. So with the Giants, they have the big reputation with because you look at the names on the pass rush. Other than Burns, nobody's getting home for the most part. But
they do have talent up front.
Yeah, Abdul Carter has 22 pressures this season, which is pretty good. He
right, and they're similar to the Eagles, where you have talent, you're not getting sacks, so the perception is, what's your pass rush like? And even if their pass rush numbers, blah blah blah, they have young talent up there that maybe just, Carter, you're still waiting on Thibodeau to be the player that he was. So that's obviously you're still waiting on that. But you put all those guys together and, you got to figure out a
plus
way.
You're going against Dexter Lawrence without Landon Dickerson.
Right. And look, let's be honest. Juergens is not the same player that he was a year ago at this point. He's admitted it that I'm not all the way back yet.
Yeah. No, definitely. Hey, Zander can tell you, if I'm pointing to one thing, and it's never one thing, but if I'm pointing to the biggest issue with offense, the offensive line has gone from historic to just good. I'm not going to say they've been bad because comparatively speaking to the rest of the NFL, you just mentioned some of the problems around the league. Yeah. They're still better than most. But last year, they had one of the best offensive lines in NFL history. No hyperbole. In NFL history. This year, they're just
absolutely
a run-of-the-mill good offensive line.
The offensive line last year, you're right, was historically great. That line was almost infallible. I mean, they just, from left to right, you had the one blip when Mailata went out for a couple of weeks there. But other than that, you essentially were healthy almost the entire season. And ironically, until the playoffs, you lost Juergens in the playoffs. But you had full health of all 5 guys working in unison all season long with uber talent. And now you've got 2 of those guys, 3 kind of when you put Lane. He's missed parts of 2 games where you've had to play without him. And whenever you play without Lane, that generally hasn't gone well. And ironically, the one game you came back in was the game that Lane went out. But to not have all 5 guys working in unison, healthy, you're seeing the effects of that right now. That said, to score 17 points with the talent you have on this offensive side of the ball is dog shit. So,
yeah,
it is.
I don't know how you look at yourself after the game and say, I'm the guy calling the plays, and I only scored 17 points with this group of guys.
You were the first one to bring it up, Mike. So I'll give you credit. But I'm like, yeah, you know what? Maybe this offense isn't as good as we think it is.
In what way? Because I think we all think AJ's extremely talented, very good. Devontae, somebody said, I got all these people, buddies texting me, they got to get rid of AJ. He's a cancer. You got to trade. People want to trade this guy. And I'm like, what the? But they think that Devontae could be the lead guy by himself if you got, he was the lead guy when he was a rookie, and that didn't go so well. But if you had a different number two that's a higher profile guy, could Devontae, and I said, dude, you got AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. If you get those guys, you don't look for ways to get rid of them. You look for ways for them to be studs every single week. Now,
sometimes it runs its course. I mean, the Chiefs got rid of Tyreek Hill, and at the time, he was one of the best receivers in football. They went on to win 2 Super Bowls. I'm not.
They also had Patrick Mahomes.
Well, that's true. I'm not advocating to get rid of AJ.
I'm not. This isn't like
be the first time.
Right. This isn't like
we just said last year, right? They had a historic offensive line, obviously the best rushing season in NFL history by a running back, literally in 2,504 yards. And they had the eighth ranked offense in the NFL. With that,
I think what they're trying to kind of balance right now is how can we morph from being a team that had a 2,000-yard rusher into something different, because obviously that's not you're not getting a 2,000-yard rusher. So you've got to get yourself kind of out of that mode. But they're saying, well, this is how we won and we're successful with all this over here. Well, you're not getting this over here. So now you got to start swinging it the other way, but not forget about this. So they went from this. Then they flipped over here and forgot about this. You got to get, like John, you talk about all the time, you got to get somewhere here until the game is in hand, and then you go back this way. Right. Once I have the game in hand, now I go back here. But I got to do both to get the game in hand. Last year, they were able to do one to get the game in hand. And then generally when they needed to, when someone took this away, every now and then they could flip over to this one. But now they're saying, you can't do this. We're not giving you this. And you're not finding this. You're not finding this.
All I'm saying is this is the greatest stretch of Eagles football in history, certainly in the modern era. They have had a top 5 offense once in this stretch, and that was the 2022 season. And the difference to me is obvious. That was Jalen Hurts' best season. So to get back to being a top 5 offense, you have to get back to 2022 Jalen Hurts,
which included a lot of him taking off in designed runs, and those are virtually gone.
Yeah, I wonder if they don't know what the North Star is yet this year. Like last year, week 4, they switched and they're like, we're going to run the ball. This is what we want to be. And then they optimized for that. It's like, if that's not working this year, what are they trying to become? What is the goal to
That's been the talk from a lot of people is the offense is yet to find their identity, because I think they're trying to identify with the team from last year, but that isn't working. So they're now trying to figure out, what are we if we aren't the team that ran for 2,000 yards last year? And they're having a hard time kind of, it's like you're trying to thread the needle on, are we this running team, but we have these 2 guys that are really good in the passing game. Right. And then, and then we have a quarterback who's like very abnormal to, well, if Joe Burrow's here, I can throw the ball 45 times and we can get away with that. We don't really have a guy that we really want to throw the ball 45 times, even though we have the receiver talent to throw the ball 45 times. That's where this team is really hard to find an identity, because of the immense talent they have at running back, wide receiver. And we all throw the quarterback in this list. We want him to be on this list of the top. But he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not the guy that's going to throw the ball Joe Burrow 45. He's a different type of top-end talent, that he has the ability to win games, clutch, makes big throws in big moments. But you don't want him to throw the ball 45 times, and that's where you're trying to thread a needle of, what are we? And I think that's what makes it so difficult.
And by the way, 100 and 25 plus passes, 0 interceptions. He's at 280 consecutive passes without an interception. That is the 11th longest streak in NFL history.
By the way, in 2022, Jalen ran the ball 165 times for 760 yards. That number has gone down and down and down the last couple of years. So you go back to that 2022 year, he added another layer to the offense that is not currently here.
Yeah, that's fair. At Mike Gill Show, make sure you follow Mike on the X platform at Mike Gill Show on YouTube as well. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. You're going to have a Phillies watch along today. How's that? Or you're on the air. What time is that game?
No, the Phillies game's at 9.
Oh, yeah, it's a late game. That's right.
So tomorrow, if the Phillies win, it will be a 6 o'clock game. Yes, we'll be at Chickies and Pete's in Atlantic City for the 6 o'clock Phillies game into the 8:20 Eagles game. So we'll have one right into the other. Should be
nice.
pretty.
Well, hey, you got to win one to get to that one. So
yep.
I need 2 predictions on your way out. That the Phillies get to a game 4, and to the New York Giants shock the world with Jackson Dart and Wan'Dale Robinson and Cam Scatterbo.
Well, last week, so far I've picked the Dodgers in both games, and I said the Dodgers would sweep the Phillies, so I'm probably not going to get off of that, although this would be the game with Nola, and everybody's pissed off that you're using Nola over Ranger, and Nola shoves it up everybody's keister and says, You didn't want me? Well, I'm the guy to save your season. So I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm going to take the Dodgers. The Dodgers pitching is just – this Phillies lineup is pedestrian when it comes to big game. You know what? You hear about – the batting
this guy pitching,
you hit 305. What's going on? Or you hit 56 homers. How many of those 56 homers against some pitcher who has no business being in the league? That's why these regular season numbers are so hard. What was your batting average against playoff level pitching? Not against the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Kansas City Royals or these teams. I want to know your batting averages and your numbers against playoff quality, and you're seeing it right now. You can't hit these guys. That said, I like the Dodgers tonight to sweep. I like the Eagles to beat the Giants. I think it'll be another ugly game, though. I don't think you're going to get one of these nights where everything's good. I think you're still going to be looking back and saying they won the game, but something's still not right. Something like, I don't know. The Giants are so bad. You probably 24-6, 24-10, something like that.
I like it. Yeah, they are bad. They are a bad football team. I don't know how Brian Daboll survives this.
Not a big Dart fan either. I'm not a big Dart guy.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I think Dart. Although he's one of them guys that runs around. He can.
Yeah, he's mobile. So Vic made a big deal because he had to make a big deal about something about the gun runs. Can't throw the ball. I mean.
Yeah,
that makes it easy for you. So
and they have no weapons without Neighbors, and their line stinks. I mean, so they got a lot going against them.
Yeah, to say the least. All right, I lied. One more. Yankees get it to Game 5. Yes or no?
Yes.
I would think so. After the way they came back last night, I think they got a little mo going, and the Blue Jays looked like they saw a ghost at the end of that game.
They did.
Were completely out of it.
That was a good game to watch last night. Mike, good stuff.
I'll tell you who's rooting for the Yankees. Fox.
No, that's true too.
You don't want a Blue Jay Mariner ALCS or a Blue Jay.
That's brutal. That's good.
Blue Jay Tiger ALCS.
That's true.
I don't know. Are they on Fox or TBS? The ALCS, or no? It goes every night. It's back on. It's on.
I know it's on FS1 now, which is
brutal. Well. These games last night. One game was on FS2.
I think 14 homes in the country have FS2. What's going on with baseball? Come on, get that ironed out. But,
what was Fox airing last night that the Yankee game couldn't be
I know.
on Fox?
It's absurd. But anyway, I digress. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Brother, appreciate it.